Happy New Year! For the first time in human history, we can finally say that hindsight is 20/20. But looking ahead is what we really want to do. And today we're going to look ahead at Block 2 of Dog Park and Applique. So I'm going to have to clean up my party supplies so we have a little space to put our blocks together. Haha! First we're going to do a recap. We have the first block of each, the Applique and the Dog Park. This was block 1, and we've already got those fused in place. So what we're going to do is move on to block number 2. As you can see, we used the newsprint background for the Dog Park, and we used a fabric that looks kind of like an unraveled ball of yarn for the Applique. And we're going to continue these two throughout the year for the block of the month. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these off and get the current months on here, and we can get started for block 2 of the competition between Team Dog Park and Team Applique. In each of our patterns we have an instruction page that will tell you all of the steps for doing the fusible product. So that's a very handy thing to have in case you have any questions. One of the things I always like to do when I get my packet is to open everything up and lay it out pretty much in the order in which it's going to be assembled on the fabric background or whatever it is you're putting it onto. So you can see here I already have my pieces laid out, and I went ahead during the first month and cut up all of my background pieces so that I would have those ready to go. One thing I would also like to say in addition, the difference between Dog Park and Applique Block 2, in Block 2 with the Dog Park you'll get this dragonfly. In Block 2 with the Applique you won't get it yet. It will come in a later month. I'm not going to be using the dragonfly on the block directly. I'm going to have it overlap the way that the block of the month does. So I went ahead and put that aside for my Dog Park. For the Applique I don't have to be concerned with that because it isn't part of the packaging yet. So this is very easy to do. All of the pieces are already laser cut and pre-fused, and all you have to do is peel the paper backing off. And when I get my thumbs warmed up, you can see just how easy that is to do. If you have a problem with the paper at any time, you can always score it in the center with a seam ripper, a pair of scissors, or a needle. Just enough to get the paper to tear. You don't have to tear through the fabric at all. And that also helps keep the edges really crisp on the edges of the tear or the fabric. So sometimes I need to look at what I'm doing and pull the background off, especially since I'm doing it upside down. Sometimes the pieces don't make sense right away. And you can see that I should have put the top of the head down first underneath the muzzle, but because these are repositionable, that isn't a problem. I can just go ahead and put that back into place. And that solves the problem. Also, sometimes when I have compound pieces where multiple pieces are stacked up, sometimes I'll do 2 or 3 components off of the pattern and go ahead and put it on as a unit where there's 2 or 3 pieces together. And you can see the eyes go behind the mustache on the beard, the fur, so I'm going to have to lift that up one more time to get that on. Another thing I will tell you, you can see that the white of this eye is much larger than the white of this eye. So I do have those in the correct position where I've got my larger one for this side. I'm not even going to pretend I can say right or left at this point because I will get it wrong because I'm upside down. I have a hard enough time doing right and left during regular time. I am ashamed to admit, but sometimes I still have to go right because that's the hand I write with, because I learned that in school. I don't know if that little way of remembering has helped me or hindered me, because I always have to still do it. And here I am at least 29 years old. Okay, so now I have almost all of the components of the cat. I just have his little whiskers and I have the ears. So I'm going to go ahead and pop my ears on. Those I can move back over because I can see those pretty clearly. I just have to get them in the right position. Sometimes I get in a hurry and I think I know where something goes, when in fact I do not know where it goes. I'm going to leave that one until I pull it off. But you can see, since we're doing this in real time, just how fast this block of the month goes. And it really couldn't be any cuter. Again, you can see I needed to lift that up. All of the pieces are repositionable until you fuse it, and the fusing will be the last step. I will be using a spritz bottle, since I try not to put water in my iron to keep it lasting longer. So some type of moisture is required to activate the steam-a-seam 2, which is what our fusible is. And now I just have the whiskers and the little freckles. I'm not sure what you call that on a cat, or a dog for that instance. I'm going to go with freckles. These black pieces are a little bit thicker. It's almost like, I'm not sure if felt or ultra suede, but it gives a nice dimension to the dots, to the eyes, and to the whiskers. Now I have the iron already preheating. I'm going to spritz this, and you could certainly use a Teflon pressing sheet or a pressing cloth if you'd like, as long as you've spritzed the top of the applique first, because again, you do have to have some type of moisture to activate the steam-a-seam 2. And don't worry about hitting that with the iron a good period of time, because you cannot over iron the steam-a-seam 2. It's more likely that you would underfuse it than it would be that you overfused it. I think I'm getting these in the right place. I could be dangling the camera directly overhead. I don't know if that would help or not. Since I'm here by myself, it would be like a one-armed paper hanger. And we're down to the last little freckle. Now I'm going to go ahead and spritz this up and get the pressing cloth out and press this. That's certainly saturated enough. And I'm going to go ahead and fuse that, and then we'll get moving on to the dog. One of the nice things about using a pressing cloth of any kind is that you don't inadvertently bend back any of the edges of the fusible applique while you're fusing it. I knew these were all lying down flat when I put the pressing cloth over top of it, and as I move the iron side to side, which probably I should just be lifting up and setting it back down, but let's face it, we don't always do exactly what we're supposed to do. And if you don't lift it up high enough, you could be pushing the edge of one of the fusible pieces to the side and scrunching it up. And then once you fused it, you only have a few seconds while it's still piping hot to undo that, and really probably not recommended. So the pressing cloth does work really good for keeping the pieces really flat and crisp while you're fusing. And again, I did put the steam down first, the spritzer, so this does have something to activate the Steam-A-Seam 2 product. And because some of these pieces have compound pieces or multiple layers, I always like to go again from the back just to make sure that the heat really penetrates through all of those layers and really activates that Steam-A-Seam 2. And you can't even spritz it again from the back. It's not going to hurt anything at all. But we want to get that Steam-A-Seam 2 totally activated to make sure that our product is completely permanent. So when you wash this over and over and put it in the dryer, it will remain on the item you've connected it to, regardless of whether you've top stitched it or not. And just like that, we have another finished block. As you can see, block number 2 of the dog park has the dragonfly overlapping, which will be block 3 and 5, I believe. But I'm going to go ahead and put all those components aside. If you were doing an individual block with this, you could go ahead and put that on your block pattern. You can see also that the dog park block number 2 doesn't have quite as many components as the Alley Cat did, so it should go just a little bit faster in putting it together. So I'm just going to go ahead in real time and get these pieces off again. If you've ever wondered what all patterns we have them all available on our website, but you could also order a catalog, a paper catalog, to be sent to your home. This is the one from last fall, spring of 2019. We do have a new catalog available, and for a small price you can have that shipped to you. And I almost did the same thing about putting my head down first, but the head goes after the ears. The light box makes it really easy also to see where these pieces go. I wouldn't iron on my light box, but I do use it to position my pieces to get them as close as humanly possible. And for those of you who have known me for a long time, you would know that I'm not really a perfectionist. Now I'm going to move this off and just set it side by side at this point, just so I can get near placement on some of these items, because even with the light box it's hard to see through some of the darker components. I'm just going to lightly press that down so I can still lift it up. One of the great things about the Steam 2 is it's repositionable. If I had to move the whole thing, I could. But this one's going much faster, as you can see. Not as many little pieces. And we're still looking forward to seeing how many of you are keeping up with us and seeing what fabrics you chose for your backgrounds. I don't know, I get the feeling that there are more cat lovers in the quilting world than there are dog lovers, but I could be wrong. And we're down to the very last piece, our little nose. And that's it. All I have to do is give this a spritz, get my pressing sheet out, and I have this one ready to go. And you can see I'm not really shy with the spritzer. I don't mind giving that a good dousing. Again, that pressing sheet helps keep the edges in place while I'm ironing so I don't crinkle any of those up. And I'm going to give this a good long iron just to make sure that all my pieces are completely fused. As I've said before, if you're getting any gumming on your needle as you're quilting through your pieces, or if you're one that likes to top stitch, that's an indication that you have not fused the Steam long enough. So I always like to give it a good press. Sometimes even later when I'm going to assemble the blocks, I might go ahead and re-iron the whole piece over again, just to make sure that everything is really fused properly. It's easy when you're doing a lot of ironing, a lot of fusing in a single day to want to rush the process and not have done it long enough. So I really like to try and make myself slow down, count to 10, sing a song. And again, because some of these pieces are compound pieces, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over and re-spritz, or you could just use the steam from the iron. But I'm going to go ahead and get that from the back as well, just to make sure that I've really activated that Steam 2. And there you have it. There you have it. We have block 2 of our dog park and alley cat for the new year started. We'll be back in the first Saturday of next month for block number 3. Again, we have a catalog that you can order if you'd like to have a paper version of all the patterns that we have available. You can order that on our website at www.urbanelements.com. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a fantastic new year.